Right. Thank you for coming back to room 01. I hope by now everybody has more energy because by now there's sunshine over here. And I know that it's hard with the technology, with the time. Those people in Indonesia, they might be stuck in traffic jam. Because of that, they might be late. And as a result, room 1 is empty with no presenters. And then for those in the US, it might be too early to get up and to present. We're also missing a few presenters, okay? But bear with us because I know technology sometimes challenging, just like you see my background. My computer is old, so my background is not as sophisticated as you all, okay? But your participation is great, and as long as you participate on time and then you ask question if you want to through our chat, and then if you cannot join us or if you cannot cannot find the room, there are a few ways to connect with us. One is through the chat in WhatsApp Messenger. Another one is through individual chat to our organizers. And then also there is a presenter chat. So we have like 3 WhatsApp chats just to check each other. Because the goal is, since we still have one more parallel session, anybody who were not able to present in previously because of what I said earlier, because of technology, or because in traffic jam, or because of some other reason, we can still find you a room or a venue or a time for you to present. Okay, everybody's clear about that? Okay, another things to to reduce confusion. Some people upload the video, other people upload the PowerPoint, other people, and some other people did not do any of those. And it's fine because those are just the 2 options for you if you think your internet connection might be problematic. So anybody who are presenting later, if you didn't choose any, to present any of those, as long as you come on time, you have everything's ready, then it's good to go. Okay, all right. So we're very delighted to introduce our, our honorary guest this morning. We have Dr. Poppy Rufaida, who is also a part of us in terms of being academic. Ibu Poppy has a long history of working in academia. She was a part of University of Pajajaran, maybe more than 2 decades. So having different position. So because of that, I think that bring her into her passion as she start working as our education and cultural attaché for the last 2 years. So we're very grateful that Ibu Poppy Rufaida can join us this early morning on Saturday. And one thing for anybody who don't know Ibu Poppy, for the last 2 years, and especially during, in the beginning of COVID-19, she's not tired of trying to keep creating relationship between Indonesia and then, and American University. And I think, or probably Ibu Poppy would agree that a lot of time you might not sleep at night because so many meetings you really try to foster. So on behalf of Indonesian professors in the US, we really appreciate your tirelessly effort to help us to connect with them. Sometimes it is challenging, but I think we will see more result based on your work. So without further ado, Dr. Poppy Rufaida, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are all well and fine. Thank you so much for the committee of ASIRPA, or the Asian Society for International Relations and Public Affairs, for hosting the Indonesia Focus 12 conference. I think this is very honor for us representing the Indonesian Embassy, delivering the opening for the conference with the title of Human Development in Indonesia from Outer Island to Capital. Please allow me to share the screen. Would be possible? It is very challenging to discuss about human development in Indonesia. So I would just reverse the topic delivered in this session in seeing the human development in global context by referring to one of the latest references developed by United Nations. So the United Nations has proposed a framework for the immediate socio-economics response due to the COVID-19 effect throughout the countries and globally, which this note is fully consistent with our situation currently. So this report is really challenging for us, particularly in discussing about what is human development. Based on the latest report developed by United Nations, it is very catchy when we read the report title is Human Development and the Anthropocene. What the Anthropocene means? This is expanding beyond human freedoms in balance with the planet. So the Anthropocene is a proposed geological epoch dating from the commencement of significant human impact of Earth's geology and ecosystem, including but not limited to anthropogenic climate change. So this is such a kind of a huge impact throughout the globe, particularly for developing the humanity. And this report is really amazing for us by wide opening our perspective in handling all problem, not only about socio-economics, but also politics, technology, and other aspects that influence the human being in life. So based on the report, we see that the global burden of the disease, the COVID-19 versus other causes, it is one of the largest in the world. So if we compare based on the Human Development Report, it shows that the pandemic of COVID-19 pandemic is really fully understood, has been impacting more than other diseases like HIV, transport injuries, self-harm, and malaria. So based on the graph, the chart, it shows that the COVID-19 is one of the largest pandemic that has been exist on Earth. And based on the research from Intelligent Web Forum organization, it also shows us that the impact of COVID-19 has been impacted not only to financial markets, to travel, to travel industry, hospitality, and travel industry, and also to trade, and also has been pushing all the institution to find the cure, particularly the vaccine, for solving this kind of problem. So there are this is the graphic that has been developed by Intelligent Web Forum that really show us the every aspect of life, from trade to labor workforce, and also to other sector. So human development from basic to enhanced capabilities. So what the conference could discuss in handling the problem from the pandemic, particularly for human development. So most countries have tremendous progress dealing with relatively frequent shock about achieving how to develop the capability of human in tackling the problem. So based on this figure, we can see that the capability of human in dealing with COVID-19 is unprecedented. It is very difficult for us how to provide the path for us, particularly for student or student college to cope with this kind of pandemic. So we have to have the ability to provide particularly the quality of health at all levels, and also high quality education. But at the same time, due to the COVID-19, many institutions in the world cannot provide adequate high quality education at all levels due to the restriction for handling the health as we know. So we see, based on the simulation done by UNDP, while all schools are closed around the world, on the other hand, also we have to maintain the quality of human capabilities in handling all those problems. So we see in this figure that almost 9 in 10 students are affected by this situation. This massive setback in education would really would really change the way we deal with how we deliver the education. So we see this is the simulation delivered by UNDP show us that nearly nearly 9 in 10 students affecting in this kind of the recession, not only in education but also in all aspects of our human life. So the decline in human development due to COVID-19 could be reduced by providing equitable internet access. However, as we see in Indonesia, it is very difficult to have a proper internet access. The Ministry of Education and Culture of the Republic of Indonesia currently has providing free internet access from elementary to higher education in order to cope this kind of crisis. But of course, not all Indonesian has a proper gadget, yeah, particularly the handset for communicating, for having a good communication. This also become other problem in coping with the educational problem. So most countries around the globe have implemented non-pharmaceutical intervention to slow the spread, such as lockdowns, school closure, movement restriction, and this kind of non-pharmaceutical intervention measure like domestic travel, checkpoint, curfew, and monitoring. Those kind of measures has been executed in many countries. But this cannot improve the human development index during this COVID-19. Of course, those kind of restriction could reduce those kind of problem in handling the COVID-19. So based on United Nations, UNDP recommended non-pharmaceutical intervention in order for us to have a better ways in improving human development, particularly in certain areas such as isolate 6 people at home, quarantine household member of 6 people, and during closed school and childcare facilities, reducing children's social contact outside school, and all those kind of steps has been executed nearly by all school in the world in order to maintain the quality of prevention. And also in the workplace also, providing a conference call instead of face-to-face meeting, modify work schedule, and have employee work from home. And while the community also are pushed by the government to cancel or to postpone large public gathering, increasing distances between people. Those kind of recommended non-pharmaceutical intervention are steps to provide a better way in maintaining the human development quality. So the takeaway. So what is the takeaway from our homework, particularly for discussing about human development in the globe and also particularly in Indonesia? As we see that the unemployment rate are jumped during the COVID-19, nearly double. And many jobs are disappear and then cannot be replaced, but some of the new job also are increased, such as online trading, and also some of the job in health industry also are increased, but other job are disappear. This kind also are challenging for the educational industry, how we could provide a better education for coping this kind of problem. So global youth unemployment jumped after the crisis and since remain high and even increasing, showing how a shock impact can be particularly severe for some vulnerable group. So this is one of our homework for us, how we could fill the gap after 2008 global financial crisis, and then now we are also facing the crisis and also the increase of unemployment for the industry. Okay, I think this is kind of the issue for this conference. I really appreciate for all the participants for giving such a great topic, particularly in increasing how the human development in Indonesia could be enhanced and then could be elaborated in more topics in order for us to have a better quality of life in human development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ibu Poppy. And I hope you don't mind staying at least until the keynote speakers is over. So in case, if there are any one of you who want to ask a question, feel free to write it in the chat, and then we will address all of the questions after all the keynote speakers are completed their talk. Okay. So Ibu Poppy has given great input, and I hope that, and I'm sure that all of the three keynote speakers after this will relate and connect to the talk as well. It's also a pleasure for me to introduce the first keynote speaker of today, because like all of us, Dr. Agus Sofyan is one of the academic. He's a full professor in of biology in Community and Technical College, Big Sandy in Kentucky. Professor Sofyan graduated from the UK, University of Kentucky in Lexington. And before that, he finished his degree in Universitas Gadjah Mada. And what is interesting, I think since COVID-19, Professor Sofyan has two jobs. In addition to answering all of the COVID-19 related, is also available for, leading prayers in a mosque, because he's also one of the imams in one of the Islamic center in Kentucky. So without further ado, let's hear more from Professor Agus Sofyan in relation to our special topic related to COVID-19. Professor Sofyan, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Raya, for the introduction. And I should say, this is a pandemic conference, just like a pandemic COVID-19, which is the participant is all, from all over the world. So I would say good morning for the participant in the US, and then also good evening for participants in Indonesia, and good afternoon for participants in the Europe. So today, I would like to, we would like to discuss about what we know about COVID-19 and how our immune system, reacts to this kind of disease. So I would like to share my presentation. Okay. Okay. Let me change that. Okay, do you see the presentation?
Yes.
The PowerPoint? Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
So I would like to discuss about what we know about COVID-19 and also how our immune system react to this, and also we're gonna discuss a little bit about what we have known about the drugs or the chemotherapeutic agent that is available for COVID-19. Okay, so as mentioned, Baya mentioned, my name is Agus Sofians. I work at Big Sandy Community and Technical College in Prestonsburg, Kentucky. And before we go to that COVID-19 itself, I would like to share a little bit about the history of pandemics. So our world, we have been attacked by actually many pandemics, and fortunately, we're able to kind of contain these pandemics with our medical advancements, and we hope and we are very optimistic that we will be able to contain this COVID-19 during this pandemic time. So this is a kind of the worst case scenario. We have disease, infectious disease, and it's spread all over the world because it's going to be very difficult to handle this kind of disease. And it has been here since before the Christ. So, like for example, in 430 BC, it was a typhoid fever, which is caused by bacteria. So this is a bacteria pandemics that kind of causing Athens at that time defeated by Spartans. And also in 165, smallpox is there. And good thing that smallpox is now eradicated because of the vaccine, because of the medical advancements. And after that, there is a first wave of plague. In this case, it's bubonic plague, and this is also caused by bacteria. Usually, the pandemic that caused bacteria is, especially for this time, is easier to handle than the pandemic that is caused by viruses, because bacteria usually can be killed by antibiotics, and it's mostly the pharmacy, the medical advancement can make antibiotics is very fast compared to the virus that is more difficult to handle actually. And after that, in 11th century, there is a leprosy, and this is also caused by bacteria. And it is happening mostly in the Europe. I just do it in glance because we don't have enough time for talk for all of them. And then the second wave of bubonic plague, and it actually took about 1/3 of Europe population. And just remember, at that time, we didn't have the medical advancement yet. So this plague had been there for years, for hundreds of years, and then we unable actually to handle this problem, the lack of medical advancement at that time, and then this disease is also spread all over the world because of the colonialisms. So European kingdom or country, they spread this disease pandemic all over the world to the indigenous peoples in America, in India, in Asia, and other countries, Africa also. And then there is another plague, bubonic plague in Great Britain, that also take about 20% of London population. In 1817, there is cholera. Then cholera is also caused by bacteria. So the plague is also caused by bacteria. This is the second wave, the third wave of bubonic plague. And 15 million people dead because of this plague. And we don't have that answer for this plague at that time. And then measles, this is caused by a virus. And then also flu, starting flu in 1889, and then Spanish flu. This is the biggest one during our era. About 50 million people dead because of this Spanish flu. And this Spanish flu is gone by itself actually. But it took about 50 million people in this world, before this Spanish flu gone. We did not have the answer for the Spanish flu, but mostly people that become the victims of the Spanish flu, either they died because of the flu, or they have what we call the natural immunity for this Spanish flu. And this is also the thing that some people think about the COVID-19. Just let everybody, get the flu, the COVID-19, and some of them will develop a natural immunity. But the cause is really, really lot for this condition. If we let the COVID-19, for example, goes to natural cause. And there is an Asian flu, and don't forget about HIV and AIDS that take about 15 million people so far, victims. And so far, there is no answer for HIV and AIDS because there is no actually drugs or vaccination for HIV and AIDS right now. SARS in 2003 and MERS, I think, in 2012, and now we have COVID-19. Now what we know about COVID-19. So when will this disease be gone? And this disease spread all over the world, very fast spreading. And this is the number that we have so far, that about more than 33 million people has been infected by this coronavirus. And then more than 1 million people dead because of this virus. 25 millions have been recovered. So this is maybe the big number for us. Now, what we do know, or what do we know about this COVID-19 disease? So this COVID-19 disease is caused by a virus called the SARS-CoV-2, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus number 2. It is called number 2 because before that there is a coronavirus number 1, which is the one that causing SARS pandemic in 2003. So this is the same family of virus with SARS and also with MERS, but with a very different activity. So according to the research and information that we have so far, SARS-CoV number 2 has a higher reproductive index. It means that it can spread, it can be transmitted with the higher rate. It will be more people who will be affected by this SARS-CoV-2 compared to SARS-CoV number 1 and also Middle East respiratory syndrome coronavirus. As we know that MERS usually was only in the Middle East area, and SARS-CoV-1 is not that spread like in SARS-CoV number 2 right now because they have different reproductive index. So SARS-CoV number 2 can be transmitted to higher area or wider area. And this virus is actually a very small virus that can carry only one RNA, and this one RNA only actually have 14 fragments that can be encoded into only 27 type of proteins. And most of the proteins, 15 of them is actually used for replication. The rest is used for other structure in that viruses. So the drugs that will be developed usually will be related to the structure of this coronavirus. This is just an illustration about the virus. So it's actually a very simple virus. It carries the RNA over here. In this, is protected by the capsid, and also it has the what we call the envelope. In the envelope, it's carried the protein. It's called a spike, and this spike is actually the one that will attach to the cell. And this spike will have a very specific attachment to the specific cell. So from this information, then we will know where are the cells that will be infected by the coronaviruses. So the receptor for this coronavirus is actually located on the cell that carry what we call the ACE2 receptor. So the cell that carry this receptor will, kind of receive the virus, and the virus will develop inside this cell. And these cells are very abundant in the lining of respiratory tracts, digestive tracts, especially in the nose and mouth area. So we know from this information then the main area for infection or transmissions will be in the nose and in the mouth. So this is a very important information that we have to prevent ourselves from infection by, performing activity or action that cover our nose or our mouth, because this is the primary transmissions area for these viruses. So this is how the virus will attack to the cell. So this is mostly the linings of respiratory and digestive system of human body. So the cell is located in the mouth, in the nose, in the trachea, lungs, even in the intestine. So this virus can attack this cell and causing the problem to these cells in their location in our body. I just want to show you a little bit about how the virus is actually perform or taking, I hijack our cell. So there are 6 stages, life cycles of the virus. So whether this is a DNA virus or RNA viruses, the first stage will be attachment, and this is very specific for specific cell. Like for example, we know about hepatitis virus. What does that mean? It means that this virus only attack the liver cells. HIV, for example, is only attack the T cell, especially the T helper cell, and then causing problem to that cell, kill that cell. The same thing with this COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 virus. They only attack the cell that carry the ACE2, which is in the respiratory system and also digestive system. There are also some ACE receptors in the heart. So that's the reason why the COVID-19 can also causing problem to the heart. So the second stage will be what we call the penetrations, where the capsid and the DNA or RNA will enter into the host cell. And then after that is uncoating, which is the RNA or DNA will be released into the cytoplasms. And then there will be synthesis. This is including the replication. Usually the RNA and DNA will enter into the nucleus of the host cell. Because what? Because inside the nucleus, we have the enzyme, it's called the polymerase, NA polymerase and RNA polymerase, that will be used by the RNA and DNA of this virus to replicate themselves. So they will make a lot of virus nucleic acid over here, okay, RNA or DNA. And also, in the cytoplasm, the RNA gonna use the ribosome, which is host cell ribosome, to produce their proteins, like a capsid protein, the spike protein, the cell membrane proteins. And then after that, they will assemble together. Okay, the virus will be covered by the capsid, and then the spikes will be placed on the host cell membrane. And finally, the virus will be released. The complete virus will be released from the cell, thousands of them. So by doing this virus actually will kill our cells. They usually take time to kill them, but usually causing a lot of problems. This new virus then can infect other cell that is still healthy. So by doing that, by knowing the cycles over there, then we should be able, actually the pharmaceutical company or the scientists should be able to kind of block or to make a drugs that maybe block maybe some of that process of the virus. Now, how about immune system? How our immune system react to that virus? Okay, so first, before we go into the the virus, we should know that in our healthy cell, we have immune system. Mostly, the lymphatic system that consists of T cell, okay, and B cell. Okay, T cell and B cell. This is very important immune system that we have. During normal time, there is no disease. For example, the T cell, there are two types, the TC, which is cytotoxic T cell, and T helper. Okay, gonna kind of survey our body and check if there is a problem. If there is no problem, then they say, okay, everything is okay. So they always survey our body in case there is a problem. Let's say there's a problem in this cell. There is a cancer cell, for example, develop in this cell. Then the TC know, okay, our cell have a problem. Then the TC will produce what we call the toxin to eradicate the cancer. If our TC is not good enough, then usually that person usually will develop the cancer cells. This is just a very simple psychological action or reaction that is performed by our immune. Now, what happens if there is a disease that coming into our body? Let's say this is a COVID-19 coronavirus enter our cell. And what happens, then the cell that is infected will produce what we call the antigens, specific antigen for COVID-19. It will be recognized by the TC. Remember TC over here? Is reconnect the cell if there is a problem. And the same thing, we have what we call the macrophages over here. Okay, so this is macrophages. The macrophages usually also will try to kill the virus or bacteria. And when they killing that bacteria, they also give the specific antigens that will be recognized by the T helper. So T helper over here recognize the macrophages. And then T helper will be activated, okay, become T helper active. And then T helper active will produce cytokines like interleukin number 2 and other, other chemicals that usually will activate the TC and also activate the B cell. Remember, we have the second lymphocyte over here called the B cell. And the B cell then will produce what we call the antibody. And this antibody will kill the infection. So this is how our immune system reacts to the infection. Okay, by T cell, the T helper, and also B cell. And this B cell will produce the antibodies that will kill the infection. After the infection, if we recover from the infection, that our immune system, the antibody will keep high, and our immune system will be ready for the next infection. And usually the next infection will not be problem. Because what? Because we already have we have the immunity for that infection after we recovery from that disease. So this is just a kind of short information about the antibodies and the immune reactions. Now, this is the stages for infection in our body. So this is, let's say, this is healthy body, and then the cell, the virus may be enter into our cells, and then we have what we call the incubation period. And during this time, usually there is no symptom. We don't feel anything. However, the virus is there, and this is what we call the symptomatic carrier. This means that this person is actually able to transfer the disease to others, even though he is not having the symptom. He does not realize that he has the viruses. And after that, there is what we call the prodromal stage or period. During this time, usually the person will have very general kind of symptoms, a fever, headache, and etc. And then after that, then the period of infection. This is the time when that person is become ill because of the virus, and it will have specific type of symptom. For the COVID-19, maybe high fever, the dry cough, sometimes unable to smell and unable to taste the food. Why? Because the ACE2 receptor, remember the one that is used by the virus to attach, is also used by smell and taste reception. So there is some, kind of a problem also with the taste and smell that that person has. And then after that, maybe these infections happening about 7 to 10 days, the person become ill, and then after that, he might be recovered from the disease. This is what we call the recovery time. And again, usually that person think that he is healthy already, he feel better, and then he usually taken after the person having the disease to know how much the antibody on that person have. Now we talk about the agents or the drugs, how far we have, how far we know about that. First, the drugs, this is ideal drugs for bacteria or virus or maybe fungi. It has to be complement. It's not the real weapon for killing the bacteria, but it is complement that assists our immune system. So it's not changing our and it has to kill the infection agent without causing problem into our body. And it has to be microbiocide. It means it has to kill the bacteria or the virus, not really just slow down the infection. And it will not produce the side effect. This is ideal. Okay, this is ideal drug that we need. How the drugs assist the immune system. Again, remember we have toxin produced by the TC. We have antibody produced by the B cell. So the drug should help only, okay, helping this immune system to fight the infection. It's not the main weapon for killing the bacteria itself. And the target,
you have 3 more minutes.
Antibacteria, antibiotics, antivirus, etc. Now, what are the targets? Remember about the cycles of the virus, okay, 6 cycles, stages of the cycle. So usually drug will try to block attachment, block the synthesis, block the assembly, and also maybe block the release of virus from the cell. So this is usually the drug that will be created. Okay, this just as an example, some example of antiviral virus, antiviral drugs, and also how it works. Like for example, I just use the one that we know, the Tamiflu. Tamiflu can be used for block the entry, and also it can be used for to block the release. So Tamiflu is actually can be used for someone that have a illness, and also for someone to protect from the disease, because it protect the healthy cell from having the virus. Okay, so this is examples, maybe the antiviral that used for flu. Now, how about for the COVID-19? This is the candidate that they are having research right now, but so far we don't have the conclusive results about what is actually the best drug that can be used for COVID-19. This is the proposals, and this is some medicines or drugs that is been proposed for COVID-19. Okay, so there are several, more than
3 more minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is some example. Like for example, this one has been mentioned about a lot. Chloroquine. I just want to show you some drugs. And this is the drug should be used actually when we really feel that we have the infection. Do not use drug when we are healthy, except if we really use it for protection for high-risk people. Like for example, if one of your member have a H1N1 flu, for example, usually doctor will give you prescription of Tamiflu that will be used for that sick person and also for the family members, because it can protect the family members too. Now, how about vaccine? So far, the vaccine is not available. They are still in testing. So I've heard about the some kind of idea to give information about giving the vaccine in Indonesia. I don't know whether it is true or not, because right now the trials, most of them is still in 2nd and maybe 3 stage of trials, okay, for making the vaccine. And I've heard that in there's a Chinese drug company that will do the tests of the 3rd trials in Indonesia and Malaysia. So what I hope, maybe this is the one that is given to the Indonesian people within maybe several months, maybe just a trial, not really patented the vaccine because it's not available yet, according to the information. So just for information, right now, we don't have the patented vaccine. It's still maybe the earliest vaccine available in 2021. So we still, kind of far away from having the real vaccine. They are still in trials right now. Okay, so what we should do, we don't have the vaccine yet. The drug is not really available for specific drug for COVID-19. We should follow the protocol. And if it is difficult for us to know what kind of protocol, maybe I can use these, rules over here. Okay, usually woman's rule will be followed easily, right? So we use the woman rules over here. What is the first one? Wash your hand. That's really important. Wash your hand because what if our hand dirty, it can be transferred to the mouth and the nose. And then obey the social distancing, 6 feet, at least. And then face mask. This is really important. Face mask is actually number one important thing that we have to wear in public because it not only protect us but also protect others. Exercise and eat well. Eat the one that have a lot of vitamin C, for example. And there is no unnecessary crowding and gathering. And the next one is do not touch or avoid touching men. So we follow the woman rule. Do not, avoid touching men. What is that? Mouth, eyes, and the nose, because that's the primary area for transmission. And also there is a suggestion that transmission can be also go through fecal, which is anus. So maybe we can put over here, do not touch your anus with, with a dirty hand, because that can also become the entry for the virus. And by that, I think that's conclude the presentation. I will return the forum to Pak Ayat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for a long and also very interesting explanation about COVID-19. And we're looking forward for your question. Please put it on chat, and then we will read it later. For the next keynote speaker, who's better way to introduce Dr. Bambang Parmanto rather than the colleague of ours, Dr. Andi Saptono, who's also working closely with Dr. Bambang Parmanto in the Department of Health Information Management. Andi?
Thank you, Maya, for this opportunity. I would like to say good morning to my fellow scholars here at the United States, and also good evening to my fellow scholars in Indonesia. I would like to also give a warm welcome to Dr. Poppy Rufaida, Bu Poppy, our Indonesian Education and Cultural Attaché for US. We are very, very excited and honored to have you here in our conference. It is my great honor to introduce our next keynote speaker, Dr. Bambang Parmanto. Dr. Parmanto is the professor and chair of the Health Information Management Department at the University of Pittsburgh. He leads the Health and Rehabilitation Informatics Research Group at the University of Pittsburgh, in which he conducts researches on digital health, including but not limited to telehealth, mobile and wearable technologies to deliver adaptive and personalized interventions for individuals with chronic and complex conditions. And his works have been recognized by many professional organizations, including the American Health Information Management Association, which have granted him the Triumph Research Award, which is one of the most prestigious award that they can give. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Bambang Parmanto.
Thank you, Andy. Good morning, everybody in the US, and good evening, our fellows in Indonesia. So what I'll be presenting today is, a bit related to COVID-19, but in a different take of it. So I'll please just share my screen. Can you see my screen right now? Okay.
Yes.
So what I'll be presenting today is mostly the work that we have been doing at the University of Pittsburgh, the research and development work that we have been doing, and Andy, is part of it. And we have many Indonesian students working with us. So, if when I present the publication that we did, you'll see Indonesian name there. So this is the outline of the my talk today. Is the first is the how COVID-19 affect telehealth, and how everything changed as we have experienced the past 6 months, completely different world. And then I discuss a bit about the digital health in what and why, and then the work that we are doing at Pitt. And then I'll discuss briefly also the work that we have been doing in Indonesia, and how this digital health has potential application in Indonesia as well. So this is the from the news, as can on the right side here is the news that about in April, about the how COVID-19 completely changed how healthcare is delivered in the U.S. And this is this news is really interesting for us, because this is about Western Pennsylvania, where many of us live, and this is about in steel towns across Western Pennsylvania, how the patient and providers went to using telehealth, and how the telehealth changed in the past 6 months, more so than in probably in the past 20 years. So and on the right side is also news, and it's also somewhat related. And as there is an expression, weeks where decades happen. So in the past 6 months, probably things happen more than probably in the past 40 years or so, in terms of how healthcare is delivered in the U.S. and probably the same thing, what happened in Indonesia as well. And and what in those two news, the interesting is this UPMC is the Universal Peaceful Medical Center, and prior to COVID-19, we probably only have about 250 encounters, so 250 visits in a month. And by April, we probably have more, almost 10,000, and then that also increases. So an increase of about 3,700%. That's in Pittsburgh, and in Virginia is even more dramatic there. And that those numbers are similar everywhere. So you can see on the right chart here is like going to the roof. That's what happened when when COVID-19 hit us, and telemedicine or telehealth was the only way to do or to deliver healthcare in all over the world. And we one of the work that we are doing is we have a measurement on how to measure the usability of telehealth, and that's used all over the world. And usually we receive probably about one request per month to use the instrument to measure the effectiveness of the telehealth. And lately we receive probably about like once a day, and asking permission on how to use that instrument, and from all over the world. So that tells everybody scrambling, everybody try to deliver healthcare in given the situation, and telehealth is the only way to do it. And many researchers use that as they might as well doing research while they deliver the service. So those are the increase in telehealth. This gives an opportunity that in terms of research, business, and everything in telehealth, again, the past 6 months probably similar to 20 to 40 years compressed into 6 months. And the reason for that is in the US, the requirement to deliver telehealth, they loosen some of the legal restrictions. So, for example, in the U.S., usually only certain services are reimbursed. Right now, almost everything reimbursed, meaning that insurance companies, government will pay for the service, something that they didn't pay before. The second also requirement about where the telehealth can be delivered. Usually, only in rural areas the telehealth will be reimbursable. But right now, everywhere we could use telehealth and it will be reimbursed by both private insurance company as well as the government insurance company. In the US, it's called Medicare and Medicaid. So, and also the loosening up in terms of privacy and security as well. So we could use Zoom like this, or we could, prior to that, we cannot use public services for to deliver telehealth. So this bring a lot of opportunities for research as well as for a new kind of services, new kind of technologies that can be used to deliver healthcare. So what I'd like to discuss today is primarily digital health. So what we have been discussing so far is how healthcare is delivered, but digital health can be, more than that. So, I'll use this illustration on the left side is what we have been discussing is primarily only for deliver care. So, but digital health can be used to for improving our health while we go about our daily life. So it can be used while, as some of you probably use, exercise or nutrition, apps that, that's nothing to do with how you use the healthcare, how you interact with your doctors and how you interact with your hospital, for example. So the point is that, digital health is technology, digital technology that can be used to maintain health, using Fitbit, and as well as to deliver care similar to telehealth and telemedicine, something that we have discussed before. So that's the area that we have been, doing a lot of work. And as on the right side is part of our work, and you can see here is Indonesian name that in the citation as well. So why digital health? You can see on the left side here, herders in the mountains of Afghanistan. They're fascinated with smartphone, and they didn't even have cellular connection. So they sell the some of the goods and to get the access to the technology, and that tells us actually how how fascinating the technology, how powerful the technology is. And probably many of you experienced 25 years ago, it's just getting connected using regular phone was very difficult in Indonesia. Right now, it's very easy, for us to connect to anybody in Indonesia using, WhatsApp or using any other means, and doing video conferencing, with people in Indonesia. So that tells us about the power of this technology, something that is unprecedented. And the penetration of smartphone is very high. In advanced countries in the US is, we could say, it's almost universal right now, in a sense that everybody can have it. Those that don't have it is probably because they don't want to. And in Indonesia, it's getting better and better as well. As you and probably you recognize that you don't have that many people in Indonesia that you cannot reach using smartphone. So another part of the why this technology is unprecedented is that it allows us to reach the person right there and then. So you use your smartphone almost all the time with you. So people don't, there's an expression that people don't adopt a mobile device, they marry to them. We spend our time with our smartphone probably more than with our significant others. So that's how that provides us an opportunity for intervention. And so, for example, we can remind the person to do this or to do that, or we could record the how we do physical activities, for example, something that couldn't be done before, in the previous technology. And this is an example that, a work that we are doing at Pitt. This is part of, it's more like Weight Watchers. It's and to encourage people to lose weight. So we combine, wearables like Fitbit, and then we also digital technologies like weights, and then we also could record the nutrition intake of the participants, and we also engage them, provide them with support, with messaging, and giving them advice, and all of them done in a small, like an automatic way. So and we could monitor, and the participants are from all over the US. And so this is an example of, as Andy mentioned, we work with the wearables as well. We right now wearable in terms of the self technology like Fitbit. We also work with wearables that people wear it on their skin, and we monitor the sensors and monitor pain and any other physical activities. This is the work that an example of the work that we are doing, also using digital technology for child anxiety treatment. This work won the competition several years ago. So I got invited to the White House prior to Trump, and this technology is currently being discussed for licensing. Andy is working on that one to have a company licensing the technology, and will use it as part of their treatment. And you can see here as well the name of the of Indonesian as part of this work. And so the idea here is that child with anxiety usually come to clinic, and they receive treatment in the clinic. And so our idea at the time was, well, what the clinicians doing, the therapists working with the kid, we could actually transform it into a digital form. So we want to have more like a therapist in a pocket, that the kid can use it whenever they need it. So that's a cognitive behavioral therapy that that usually only available to the kids of the family, like every other week. But with this technology, they can get access to it, in a digital form whenever they need it. And so, there's an example of the thing that we developed. So, there's a skills coach there that is accessible to the children, at any time they need it. So when they feel anxious, they could activate the app, and we could also have an automatic trigger. So if we recognize that child usually getting anxious when they when they are at school, or when they are about to enter the school bus, for example, we can activate that as well. And because this is for kids, we use gamification, and we provide reward as well. So this is an example of digital health as an adjuvant to the traditional health intervention. And this is an example of the serious games that we put in the app. So we the traditional intervention, we turn it into game. So with a similar effect. And this game is developed by in a collaboration with psychologists. And this is an example of in the treatment, usually they already have more like a manual treatment. So we convert that into digital form. So and most of the cognitive behavioral therapies are like that. So there's an example of the fear protocol that is delivered to kids while they anxiety attack. Now we did the clinical trial on that one, and so our goal was to to shorten the treatment. So what happened was that for this kind of treatment, it takes about 4 months, and family usually don't have time. And imagine if they also come from rural areas in Pennsylvania, for example, and it's really a big burden for the family. So what we're trying to do is to shorten the intervention into 8 weeks, and using the technology. And what we found is that using the digital technology, the 8-week intervention is actually better than the traditional intervention. So this is the patient that are recovered, and with the digital intervention is about 70%, almost 70%, while the using traditional intervention for 16 weeks actually is about 50%. And this is the publication that we have, and you can see here that Indonesian's name over there. Another intervention that we did with the digital health was for sleep. So you might wondering, sleep. When the first time I worked with the psychologists who and psychiatrists who work with on sleep, I said sleep, and it turned out that sleep is as that we spend significant part of our life sleeping, and if the lack of sleep is actually contribute to many of the health factors, both mental and physical. And sleep actually also a window of many of the mental health issues. So, and believe it or not, in Pittsburgh, there is a large group of sleep and circadian researchers, and actually if you work in medicine, several years ago the Nobel prize winners is actually the people who found the circadian rhythm. So our wake and sleep type in the wake and sleep rhythm in our body. And so the work in again, this technology has been licensed, and there is a startup company that using use this technology. So using wearable, we detect when the people sleep and wake up, and then we have an algorithm, and that is also developed at Pitt on to calculate the optimal time when you should sleep or wake up based on the data that we gather from you. So this is an example of again using wearable devices. We monitor physical activity as well as sleep and wake up time, and then we could calculate there what the optimal sleep and wake up time, and then also we provide intervention. Again, it's combination of algorithm and the cognitive behavioral therapy on sleep and again this intervention is more effective than the traditional one, and this one we either completely digital or people have only visit once instead of 8 visits that usually they did in with the traditional intervention. So in traditional intervention, what we did is that the patient will come to the clinic, and then we will evaluate them, and then we'll monitor them, provide them education, usually on using papers, and we think this digital technology is much more powerful because we could monitor them all the time, and then we could also intervene when it's needed, and provide the patient with not only guidance on how to do it, but also provide them with really immediate feedback when they should wake up and they should sleep. Again, this is the publication that we did, and you can see here also Indonesian's name there. And these are our students who we usually ask our students to be the main author on the publication.
Bambang, you have 4 more minutes.
Okay, so I will just skip this, and this is another work so that So what are the potential for Indonesia? And so we did work in Papua, and as you know, that mother and child, kesehatan ibu and anak was really important in Indonesia because of the high mortality rate and in Indonesia. So we started developing also mobile health for intervention in this area. And what we envisioned was that we could support community health workers, with this, tablet like this, and then they can record the immunization, the problems with child in the villages, and then and record it, and also provide the videos, education about to the mothers on how to care for their children. And there is the handbook that is very well known in Indonesia. We want to convert that into the digital form, and we want to make it culturally sensitive as well, because let's say the work that we have been doing in Papua, so we use the illustration of the population in Papua. And this, on the right side is the book, and then we want to convert that into a digital form that can be used by community health workers, as well as if they have smartphone, they could also use it on their own. And so this is still preliminary. So we haven't done any field implementation yet. We the project was halted because of COVID-19, and hopefully we'll have time to restart at some point. This is an example of the health record that we collected in Papua, as you can see there, and it's on paper. It's paper, and it's probably only the doctors and the nurse would understand that. So we could turn this into something that is useful for the community health workers, as well as the population who have the access to to smartphone or tablet, for example. So you could see the chart. If you are parents, this chart, and they can see the progress of the of their child. And one of the issues in Indonesia is stunting, and from there we could record what are the stunting problem in villages, for example, and then we could do intervention on that. As well, as we immunization and other things. Okay, so hopefully I'll have my presentation is on time, so I'll welcome any questions later, after the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Bambang Parmanto. And for everyone, sometime I forgot to mention doctor or professor, because the majority of people here are doctor and professor. Okay, so apologize if, but for all attendees, would be happy to put your degree ones for your certificates. And some of you also contacted me in terms of questions. Feel free to put the question in the chat. And indeed, some of them can only be seen by me and some other co-host. But later on, we will open it. Okay. So the last keynote speaker, Dr. Kristiadi, and he will be introduced by Jimmy Ardiansyah.
All right, thank you, Dr. Aya. Appreciate for the opportunity, and I'm very excited to introduce this one of the speaker for today. As you can see, I'm standing up, right? So let me welcome all of you to the Indonesian Focus Conference 2020. Good morning to all friends and colleagues in the U.S. and respective participants in Indonesia. I hope that you've been enjoying and learning our first virtual conference ever. So it's a pleasure of mine to introduce this speaker. I have known this speaker for quite some time. But as the musician, though, he's really good guitar player, if you want to know. When I say good, he's really epic electric guitar player. And every time we have the gathering here in the U.S., his band performance is not something that you want to miss. So that's beside the point. Academically, Dr. Kristiadi received his economic degree from the West Virginia University back in 2005. So his research interests including the demographic economics, urban and regional economics, specifically on migration. So his research has been appeared in one of the prestigious Journal of Regional Science. He also one of the principal demographer for the Bureau of Business and Economic Research, right? Because of that role, he's also served as the representative for the Federal State Cooperative and Population Program. And amazingly, he also one of the faculty member for the Department of Economics, teaching a variety of economic subjects to both undergrad and graduate students, as well as MBA teaching on an MBA program under the School Chamber of School Chamber Business School. So without any further ado, I'm proudly presented to you Dr. Chris Tiadi. Mas Chris, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Mas Jimmy, for the nice introduction. First, I would like to thank the organizing committee for the opportunity. I also like to thank Bu Poppy for coming to this event, for supporting this event. And before I forget, I would like to salute Dr. Bambang. I really enjoyed his presentation, and I can see that what you and your team do actually make a difference. All right, so my job today is to talk about the Indonesian economy during COVID-19 pandemic. Oh, I got on my file. Oh my God.
Yes, your file. I see it.
Oh, there. Okay. All right. Let's start by looking at the updates of COVID-19 cases in Indonesia. What I have here is the data that goes through September 30th. And in the month of September, we have more than 100,000 cases of COVID-19 in Indonesia. That's a big number, much bigger than the number we have in August. And if you look at this slide, this figure, you see that look at the trend, it's still increasing. It's more like increasing at an increasing rate. So, so this is the reality. We need to accept that. We don't see any sign of the curve flattening anytime soon. So we have to accept the reality that COVID-19 pandemic is going to stay with us for quite a while. All right, and I believe it is useful to compare what happens in Indonesia to what happens in the other countries. First, we compare Indonesia and the other countries in the Southeast Asia region. As you see here, Singapore has the highest rate of COVID-19 cases, about 10,000 cases per 1 million people. Okay. Now, this is not a perfect measure. We know about that because the more you conduct the tests, the more cases of COVID-19 you'll find. Okay? But given the significant difference of this rate, I believe we still can confirm that the rate of COVID-19 cases in Singapore is still higher than Philippines, Indonesia. And let's also compare COVID-19 cases with the rest of the world. I'm showing you here just select countries in the top 140. Indonesia is actually ranked 140th. Okay, and so if you compare these bars, you can see that the rate of COVID-19 cases in Indonesia is very low compared to these other top countries. Now, that's not something that we can brag about, actually, something we can be proud of, because this is not really a sign of success. But we can use this knowledge to remind us about, the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic can really get really bad. I mean, this is already happening in these countries. Look at how many cases, COVID-19 cases in these countries, right? Okay, so let's get to it. I'm showing you here now the GDP growth, the year-to-year GDP growth in Indonesia. So year-to-year means we compare the GDP in this quarter to the GDP in the same quarter of last year. So between since 2014, actually, Indonesia has a pretty consistent growth, GDP growth of around 5%. But that changed in in the first quarter of 2020, when the GDP growth actually declines to about 3%. And the second quarter of 2020, the GDP actually declines by minus 5%. Okay, so that is saying that, as if saying that the decline in this last quarter cancels the growth, the GDP growth that we achieve in the previous quarter. Same idea. Let's also compare the GDP growth with the rest of the world, but here I'm only showing countries that already have the data on the GDP growth in the second quarter of 2020. Okay, and as you can see here, the Indonesia here is compared to the other countries. This country actually is pretty low. Okay, but again, as bad as what you have seen in Indonesia, you can feel it. People are losing jobs, suffering. People are complaining. Okay, but apparently there are more countries that suffer more than Indonesia. If you look at India here, their GDP actually declines by nearly 25%. That's a big decline, right? That like cancels all the achievement in the previous 4 to 5 quarters. Okay, so let's also compare Indonesia with the other Asian countries. Philippines, its GDP declined by minus 16, Singapore minus 13, Japan minus 10, and Turkey minus 9. There are only 2 countries that have positive GDP growth, which is Argentina and China. China, we know what happened. They apply the total lockdown, and that is successful in purging the spread of the COVID-19, and that allows China to open the economy and helps the economy to recover. I'm not sure what happens in Argentina, why this is positive. Argentina actually is also one of the top countries with COVID-19 cases, but for some reasons it has a positive GDP growth in the second quarter of 2020. I don't know much about Argentina. Maybe some of you can help me with that. Okay, let's look at how the COVID-19 pandemic affects the Indonesian economy in more detail. First, look at how the pandemic affects the GDP components. GDP components consist of consumption, investment, government expenditure, and export and imports. As you can see here on the left side of my slide, export and imports are most affected by the pandemic. Okay? And household consumption is the least affected by the pandemic. Okay? But if you take into account the size of this component, consumption is the biggest component of GDP in Indonesia, about 50 something percent. Okay, so if you take that into account and then you calculate how this each of these components contribute to the overall decline of the GDP of minus 5.3. So consumption actually contributes the most at nearly minus 3%, followed by investment, consumption, and Others here is export minus import. It is positive, not because it's growing, but it's simply because the decline in import is bigger than the decline in export. Next, we look at how the pandemic affects the industrial sectors in Indonesia. So most affected is transportation and warehousing sector, which makes sense, right? Because people basically stop traveling. So there's a big drop in the demand for transportation services, followed by accommodation and food services sector, which also makes sense. People stop traveling. People don't need hotels. Restaurants are closed, okay, and so forth. Most of the sectors are declining, but there are some sectors that actually are growing during this pandemic. The first one, let's see, health services, which grows 3.7%, okay, which makes sense, right? Because at this time, there is an increased demand for health services. And then also information and telecommunication sector growing strongly, nearly 11%, which also makes sense. Right now, people are shifting their way of communicating, and there's a big demand for digital equipment. All right. And I would also like to mention one of the big sectors in Indonesia, which is agriculture. It is actually growing by 2.2%. Okay. This is mainly driven by the increased demand for food within the agriculture sector. It is the production of food crops that is growing the most. Similarly, we calculate each sector's contribution to the overall GDP decline. So transportation and warehousing is still contributing the most to the overall GDP decline at minus 1.3. Actually, it's almost the same as manufacturing, followed by trade and so forth. I just want to take a quick look at what happens to the Indonesian regions. Okay, here most of these big islands, big regions experience negative GDP growth. These red circles. Okay, the region that is hit hardest is Java, where the regional GDP actually goes down by nearly 7%. But there is one place, one region that actually has a positive GDP growth, which is Maluku and Papua. All right, now let's try to examine how the COVID pandemic actually affects the economy. Okay, how does it really work? Is it because COVID-19 make people sick, people can't go to work, that causes economic decline, or is it because COVID-19 forces economic lockdown that causes economic decline? I believe we see both of these happening, but I also believe that it is the economic lockdown that affects the economic decline most, right? So economic decline is primarily driven by economic lockdown, and I think we can agree on that. Now, knowing that, can now we say that a more severe pandemic will lead to higher scale of economic lockdown, and in turn lead to a more severe economic decline? It makes sense, but I believe the relationship is not as straightforward. Why? Because there are some issues with that. Because not economic lockdown is actually effective. We know China, the lockdown that they did is effective, okay, and that causes the spread of COVID-19 to stop. So China has a less severe pandemic. So their big economic lockdown is associated with less severe pandemic. But that's not what happens with the other countries. typically there is a denial period. They don't do anything in the first place, and then they start economic lockdown, and then after they see COVID-19 cases declining, they reopen the economy, they relax the lockdown, economy is going up again, but then the COVID-19 cases spike again. So in the others and the other countries, and those other countries, the big economic lockdown is more associated with more severe pandemic. So we don't really see a clear relationship here. And the second reason is that this is more academic. You cannot. It is hard to measure the scale of economic lockdown. Okay, the same name. Okay, but it may mean differently across different countries. How do you measure economic lockdown? Based on the length of the lockdown, or based on the tightness of the policies? So, I mean, we can't really find a good measure of the size of economic lockdown. And as we have seen in the previous slides, the lockdown affects the GDP components and industrial sectors differently. But let's just look at the relationship anyway, okay? Knowing all this information, using the available data. First, let's check whether there is a clear relationship between GDP growth and the severity of COVID-19 pandemic. So we use the COVID cases rate per million people to represent the severity of the pandemic. And we expect to see that more severe pandemic will likely lead to slower GDP growth. So we expect to see a negative relationship. And then as you can see here, this is still using the data that we have. It's not probably big enough. It's decline, it's negative, but it's not that steep. It's not that convincing. And if you look at the cluster here, it's pretty sparse, so it's not that convincing. So I think it's more like it's closer to flat, actually. Flat meaning there is no clear relationship. Next, let's see if there is a clear relationship between GDP growth and the share of the household consumption within the GDP. So the idea is that since pandemic affects household consumption greatly, so we expect to see that countries with the higher share of household consumption will tend to suffer more, thus have lower GDP growth. So we expect to see another negative relationship. And what we see here is, a little bit better than in the first slide. So it's steeper. And if you consider this as outliers and you focus more on this cluster, which is pretty tight actually, so you may be able to get even steeper line. So the relationship we find here is better than the one we find in the previous slide. Let's check another one, whether there is a clear relationship between GDP growth and the export-import, the share of export-import within the GDP. We know export and imports are highly affected by the pandemic. We expect to see another negative relationship. The higher the share of the export and imports, the more suffering, the lower the GDP growth, and we don't really find that. Okay, I think it's closer to flat, which is zero, which means there is no relationship. All right, now, but we learned that there is the conclusion is that there is no a clear relationship between all these variables. Okay, but we learned that there is one relationship that we know exists, and it's strong, and I think we agree on that. That the economic lockdown actually is the one driving the economic decline. So I'm using the data, the US data here, because I can get monthly data for the US. It's very difficult to get monthly data for Indonesia. So if you check the timing of the lockdown, as soon as the lockdown starts, the unemployment rate spikes. Okay, and then at the same time, COVID cases is declining, and then we start to relax the lockdown, start reopening the economy partly, and then when we do that, the unemployment rate starts going down and keeps going down. But that's at the cost of the spike in the COVID-19 cases. All right. So before I close the presentation, I just want to show you the forecast, economic forecast. This is done by IMF. This is an excerpt of its report. Indonesia expected to grow by minus 0.3% in 2020. Okay, it's negative, but if you compare this number with the other countries, okay, it is actually much better. So there is hope. All right, some concluding remarks. The COVID-19 pandemic will continue to stay with us for a while. We see there is no convincing evidence that shows the relationship between the severity of COVID-19 pandemic and the scale of economic lockdown and the magnitude of the economic decline. But we see a clear evidence of economic decline being primarily driven by economic lockdown. And economic lockdown affects the GDP components and industrial sectors differently. One more thing, policy recommendation. This is my personal take. This is not a conclusion, so it's personal take, so it's up for debate, discussion. Okay, my main point here is that the COVID-19 pandemic is temporary. So if you want to apply or adopt a policy, okay, because things will get back to normal, or the majority of things will get back to normal. Okay, so if you want to adopt a policy, try to avoid adopting policies that cause drastic changes in the economic landscape. Also, avoid adopting policies that are too specific to certain industrial sectors. Why? Because when things get back to normal, those changes, those new big changes, may no longer a good fit, or those industrial sectors that you focus on may no longer be the most important sectors. So if you want to adapt a policy anyway, my personal take is that let's continue to relax the economic lockdown. Let's continue to open the economy partly, okay? But the big but here is at the same time, we need to put more efforts in trying to enforce the COVID-19 health protocols, or trying to fight the COVID-19, okay? If necessary, we can reallocate all the stimulus money that we pledge for other activities and use that to finance all efforts to fight the COVID-19. All right, I think that's all I have, and I thank everybody for being patient, and sorry again for the technical problem.
Thank you so much, Pak Chris. Despite the issue with the technology, I think the presentation is excellent, and also the same thing with the other two presenters. For the rest of us, or for some of you who are unable to attend or to listen to the first keynote speaker, I give you 3 hints. With Pak Agus, the key question is, when will the COVID be gone? That's the main thing that I remember. Yes, and it's very important because all of that become a big question for us. But I hope that the explanation kind of like help in terms of history and development. And with Pak Bambang, very interesting with the Fitbit, and then the technology and the dream. Because I have to say, Pak Bambang, well, during 14 days when I was positive with COVID, that was the best sleep I've ever had. I didn't dream at all. I slept like a baby for, I don't know, more than 10 hours a day. So maybe that's something that maybe didn't come up in research, but everything can be different. And the last one is from Pak Chris, is about economy. And one thing that it's, for everybody here, sometime these presentations, keynote speakers, we send the summary, we send the talk to our, to officials, or maybe in that case, the last few years, we share the result of this meeting to the consular office, as a way to share as a part of academia in the US. Now we have 20 minutes. We have a few questions, and I will read some of them. The first one from Anton for Pak Agus. Pak Agus, can you read the question, or I can read it for you?
I can read. Yeah,
okay.
I already read it. Thank you very much, Mas Anton, for the questions. Yes, this is actually a big concern in some countries that consider as sometimes religious countries, that sometimes they try to avoid the vaccine because there is non-halal things, or how the vaccine is made from non-halal things. Just for information, yeah, there are some vaccine maybe made from non-halal things, by some people that follow that religion to take it. But just for information, and that religion, for example, Islamic religions, in the time of emergency, sometimes it is better to choose the one that is helpful and also for life, rather than avoid it. Because if we do avoid it, it's actually become sinful in that in that religion, in Islamic religion actually. So it's really the way people thinking about the fiqh, about the rules in Islam, in religion, is really important for them. There are some people that just follow the fiqh or follow the rules without really understanding the reason behind that rules. So this is, I think, very unfortunate that there are still some people that kind of have this opinion and follow this. I believe this is a wrong opinion, because they actually become zolim, what we call it zolim, which is not fair for other people. Okay, so I hope it's not many of people that really follow this opinion. Maybe that's the answer.
All right, thank you, Pak Agus. The next question is from Ihsan Rizki for Pak Bambang Parmanto. You want me to read the question, Pak Bambang?
Let me read the question. Okay.
Oh, okay, you can read it. Yeah, sure.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't see the question on the
That's
chat.
fine. I'll read it for you then. When comparing telehealth and in-person visits, are there any differences in the care of patient?
You mean in terms of satisfaction, or yeah, we usually measure not only in terms of outcome, whether this treatment is more effective than the others. We usually also measure the satisfaction on the part of the patient, and use another factor usually that we measure is if we have access to the data is cost. So we can compare it with the cost of the treatment. Usually we can get it from if it's part of the clinic, we can gather the cost from that one, and then compare it with the telehealth. So usually those true measures is all three aims: the outcome, the health outcome, that can be many things, and then the satisfaction with the care on the part of the patient, and then the third one is cost. So the more complex one is the health outcome, usually, whether it's, let's say, for mental health, usually whether the patient is in remission, or in the case of more measurable health condition, we could measure, let's say, the hospitalization, the infection, and all of those things.
Thank you, Pak Bambang. Next question come from Amel or Rosaria Nita Amalia from Unpad. Pak Chris, this question is for you. Can you
Okay.
read? Did you
Yeah,
find the question?
I can read the question. So
Okay.
the question is, it a good idea to provide funding, a giving fund for people monthly? Is the best way to make them stay at home and give impacts to decrease the COVID-19 cases. I believe to some extent the government has already done that, okay, through different programs, okay. But I guess the issue is more about, you know, the government has a limited amount of money. If you want to give out some money for people, the issue is to determine how much you want to give them, okay? And you know, we need data about people who really deserve that, and that's already a big problem even right now. But again, the government can only do so much. It has limited money. You cannot use all the money to give people funding, to fund people, give them the monthly income. It can be a huge money. Okay, the government has to spend money for other purposes, for military, for education, and so forth. All right. So, in my opinion, again, the best way to help people economically is to get the economy back again, you know, and because that will help the economic recovery, and people will start working again, and people will get jobs. All right, but again, with the big note that at the same time the government has to enforce the health COVID-19 protocols. Spend the money, the stimulus money, for that effort. Do a social education. Send people to the field to monitor, to supervise, and so forth. Okay, and I think that works better. But thank you.
Thank you, Pak Chris. Next question is for Ibu Poppy Rufaida from Anton again, student in Belgium. Did you find the question, Bu Poppy, or you want me to read it for you? Bu Poppy, I think your audio is muted. Okay.
Ibu?
Yes. Did you find the question, Bu Poppy?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to ask to a great presenter, to Dr. Agus Sofyan, Dr. Bambang Permanto, and Dr. Kristiadi. I just wondering about the preparation for Indonesia in preparing the capabilities of Indonesian human resources, particularly in handling this situation based on the background from Dr. Agus Sofyan about the immune system, and also about the digital health in Indonesia, and also the Indonesian economy during the pandemic. So it affects not only through social life, but also in economic situation, but also to the health of Indonesia. What I would to have to ask to Dr. Agus, Dr. Bambang, and Dr. Kristiadi is the framework that could be adopted by Indonesia in facing this situation. Thank you.
So, Bu Poppy, actually, earlier I'm asking you to respond to a question from one of our participants, but maybe we can listen to response from Pak Chris, Pak Bambang, and Pak Agus before we listen to the response from Ibu Poppy regarding question from Anton.
Can I answer that question first?
Sure.
Okay. So, what we have known so far that the COVID-19 will not be reduced, decrease for the next several months. From the previous history of pandemics, we know that medical intervention is really important to reduce the pandemics. For example, the vaccination, for example. We know the smallpox is gone in 1980 because of the vaccination. So we're waiting for these COVID-19 vaccines to be available. And for the information that we have, this vaccine is actually not ready yet until next year. So what we have to do now, especially Indonesia, we have to still, follow the protocols. Previously, I attended the presentation from one of our presenters from UNPAD. It's really good. I mean, if the local community in the university, for example, the top, management in the university, in the industry, etc., they try to put that protocols in. Yes, you still be able to teach online or teach face-to-face, you still be able to work, but if when you do the protocols, tightly, it should help us to protect from the COVID-19. To continue, as I mentioned, Dr. Chris already mentioned about, relax the, the industry, the working. Yes, do that because it is important to increase our economic growth. But at the same time, try to force the protocols tightly. So working at the same time and also try to prevent the COVID-19 at the time. We're still waiting for the vaccine it is not available until next year. They mentioned maybe the earliest available vaccine will be around March and April 2021. So you can imagine that it's still a long time.
Pak Chris and Pak Bambang, do you want to respond to Ibu Poppy's question?
Yeah, I can respond to that. I think this is the area that Indonesia, I think could be. I think Indonesia are ready with the digital health. I think one of the stumbling block is the government. Usually it's very the DEPCAS usually very restrictive. They did a similar thing like what happened in the US by loosening the restriction of providing telehealth services, but still what they did there is still very restrictive. And then they just to give you an example how restrictive they are and how sometimes the doesn't make sense. What they're doing is when we did demo in Papua, we wanted to do demo, meaning that simulating the patient in Papua, getting service from someone at UGM, and DEPCAS, rejected, that because of the privacy and security concerns. And we said, we are in the US is the pioneer on this with HIPAA, rules and law, and this is demo. It's demo means, it's pretend, it's just pretending, and it requires us to call the minister, so that because everybody at Papua was very afraid, and everybody at UGM was very afraid for that one. That's the kind of restriction that I think not only hindering the growth of the industry and the service and also the innovation over there, but it's really it's a disservice to the population over there. So that's the but and the rest, I think Indonesia is very creative, and then as you know that with all the services that provided with mobile technology, this is the kind of thing that it can be done easily in Indonesia, using local resources as well.
Thank you, Pak Bambang. Pak Chris, do you want to say something?
Yeah, just a little bit. Well, actually, I have already said that. Mas Agus also agreed with that. So basically, let the economy open, and then at the same time, enforce the health protocols if necessary. Okay, spend more money on that. Spend more money on that efforts, and giving incentive to people, organizations to help, enforcing the COVID-19 protocols. Okay, because that will, help the economy to go back up again and give the people opportunity to earn income. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Chris. Ibu Poppy, do you want to respond to Anton's question, if you don't mind?
Yes, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the response. Sorry, I ask directly because it's already come up in my mind. Thank you for the question from
Anton.
sorry, Pak Anton. Yeah, Pak Anton. It's about the visa. How the preparation from Indonesian government representing by the Indonesian embassy in Washington DC in relation to the COVID-19. Most of the embassies in certain countries, particularly the U.S. embassy, now still holding, not providing the services for visa for Indonesian students to enter the U.S. and also for other countries to enter the U.S. So this is the policy imposed by the government. So we have to follow what happens in the future. So we're still expecting that the COVID-19 pandemic situation would really change toward the decreased number of the cases appear, between now and in the future. So as we know that Indonesia also has been alert by many countries due to the increased number of COVID-19 cases. So please be aware. I suggest that you may just check to the U.S. Embassy's information on the website. And I have already checked and also consulted to our colleagues in the embassy that the U.S. Embassy is still not providing services for visa. So, but please keep in mind and also keep alert and then always check all the time whether the information provided by the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta are open and then change. I think this is the information that I could, inform to you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Poppy. And I know that this is a hard question to respond because, I think all of us, including we're the professors here, sometimes we are asked the same question on visa, even though we don't really deal with that and everything can change, over a day or two or even a month. Okay.
Yeah.
And I also appreciate the fact that you're one of the serious participants and presenters, because I could see that you want to ask question because you listen well, and then I'm glad that the three presenters can respond to you. And I'm a little bit distracted with the screen because it keep like popping up. But we have a little last question and from Bobby, and this is very interesting. Even though his question, he said, is for everyone. But judging from the question, he remember well from Dr. Agus Sofyan's question. Pak Agus, are you still here?
Yes.
Okay. Pak Agus, did, because you mentioned about women and men. I also remember that. And this is exactly the question from Bobby. Okay. So, Pak Agus, maybe you can respond.
Okay. Thank you, Bobby. This is a very good question. So, I think his question is about individual levels in protection, how we protect ourselves, our family, and others from getting the COVID-19 disease. So just for your information, CDC, I believe, suggested that there are about 40% what we call the asymptomatic people, or it is also known as a carrier. So you can imagine that there's a large percentage. It means that from 5 people that you meet, maybe 2 of them is actually carry the COVID-19 viruses. So just for information, in Indonesia, maybe it's called the OTG, orang tanpa gejala. They don't really realize that they carry the disease and then can transfer to others. So how we prevent that? First, into ourselves, don't be selfish. Okay, don't be selfish. Just remember that you might carry the disease. And then also just remember, some people might carry the disease to you. So in the individual levels, the best way to do is stay home. That's the first thing to do. Okay. If you are, a government employee, you have the advantage. Because what? Because most of the government employee, they get paid when they staying home. So take that advantage. Stay home. Do not go out if it is not necessary. Okay? So that's the first thing. Second, if you, for example, go out, make sure follow the protocol. First, the best protocol is you wearing the face mask, because face mask can actually protect the spread of disease up to over 90%. So you can imagine that if both people that have the disease and the healthy people wearing the mask is actually about close to, you can say that, but maybe 0% the ability for the transmission of the disease. So just using the face mask. Second, using the social distance, which is about 6 feet away, at least more than 6 feet away. That's also the second way to, to protect us and others from spreading the disease. And the third thing is always washing or clean the hands, okay, maybe with the antiseptic soap, especially if you coming from outside, going from grocery and etc. When we back home, washing the hand, and then do not, like a man, okay, do not touch, avoiding touching the mouth, eyes, and nose with a dirty hand. So wash the hand. So this is kind of maybe minimal thing that we can do, and it's not that difficult. But some people sometimes, they have a political kind of affiliation that, they follow, they say that this is a freedom. I can do whatever I want. I can wear mask or not. It's up to me. That's actually selfish. Because this is just like, for example, if you run the red traffic light, this is, maybe you can say, this is my freedom to run the traffic light. Well, what happened? You can get killed and other can get killed. The same thing with the COVID-19. You only go out maybe for several hours. Why don't wear the mask? It's not really difficult, maybe several hours. Unless if you have some problem with the breathing or asthma, for example, this is, maybe anyway, you actually a higher risk for getting the diseases. Maybe just stay home and let somebody do the grocery for you. This is just, individual level of protection.
Thank you, Pak Agus. And well, it's almost midnight in Papua. It's almost 11 in Palu and Bali. And I saw some of you that I recognize and have ever been to the conference. Well, ideally, if we meet, this is a good time for having lunch or having a short break. And that's the time for us to reconnect and ask questions privately. Unfortunately, we have no luxury. So I hope that you can stay, with us until for another hour or two. After this, we have a panel session. I don't know whether Ibu Poppy will stay in the line, but if you decide to go, because I know that you are so busy with so many things, even the weekend you work with all the meetings. So if you decide to go on behalf of, ASIPA, thank you so much for using your Saturday morning rather than being with your family, but attending our meeting. But if you're staying in the line, then we'll be back together with Ibu Poppy and with everybody at 11:45. Okay, for the closing and chit-chatting and also talking about the plan for next year. Okay, all right, a little bit, some short changes for the conference. So Hervianti, please go to 2A, session 2A, and then Juliana, please go to 2D. Okay, and Pak Sulaiman, you have a question or you're talking with somebody with your hand? Or maybe he's not listening. Okay. All right, Ibu Poppy, are you staying or you're leaving?
I'll try to stay, but please allow me to do some kind of calling and everything since
Sure.
our coordination. So I'll try to. Yeah.
We really appreciate you joining us. But yeah, come in and out, or whatever you need, and let us know if you have any question. Okay, and and thank you so much. And for everyone, let's go to room 1, 2, 3, and 4, 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D, and based on the schedules. Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Ibu Poppy. See you then.
See you then. Yeah.
One of the guests that who come today is Pak Syafrin Murdas from Indonesian Muslim Society in America, and then Pak yes, Pak Syafrin. Okay, and then I'm trying to find your face, Pak Syafrin.
You see me now?
Yes, now I can see you now. Okay,
right.
Because I want to make sure everybody see your face, and this is the first time for Pak Syafrin also come to our meeting. But the last 2 years we have one of your colleagues to come, So if you don't mind, please, talk a little bit about, give some remarks to us so that we know a little bit about IMSA, and maybe we're still hoping that you can continue to support us and also to join our conference.
All right, inshallah. Salam, I think everyone's all praises due to Allah the Almighty. Peace and blessing to Prophet Muhammad and all the prophets. Thank you, Bu Ayah, for introducing me. And good morning, everyone. I think we are closing to noon. And I think program's almost ended very soon. I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe during this unpleasant time. And I would like to thank Dr. Nurhaya Mukhtar, you as a president, ASIRPA president, and also as the conference organizer, Indonesia Focus 2020, and all the committee for inviting me. I think indeed it is an honor for me and a pleasure to be in this conference, such an important conference. I also like to extend, I don't know if Ibu Poppy is still here, Ibu Poppy Rufaida from the Indonesian Education Cultural Attaché. It's good to get support from the embassy as well, not just IMSA and other organizations. And then all the keynote speakers, all my friends, researchers, presenters, and all the participants. This is really an exciting conference. My first time after a few hours of sessions and presentations. Now I think we are reaching to an end. I think before everyone say goodbye and have our lunch for us in the States, and for those who are in Indonesia are going to get rest for the night, I would like just to sincerely congratulate ASIRPA again for hosting this conference and running it well. And I've heard about it before, but now I witnessed, I attended, and then it is really good. And then time flies, doesn't it? ASIRPA now has just finished conducting its 12th annual Indonesia Focus Conference. What an achievement, for an organization, 12 years, in the span of, this 12 years. I think, I guess for some people, we don't really count times when we are doing something we enjoy, especially when it could benefit many people, and with the hope that we could make a difference to society. Now, I think at the same time, you also have brought many scholars and students from all over the place and in different fields of knowledge and discipline to collaborate and share their research about Indonesia, which we all attended today. I think during these 12 years, probably hundreds of research papers have been presented and even implemented at the field level. So congratulations again, and then I hope ASIRPA will continue to grow and then keep contributing to our homeland Indonesia, especially. Now the theme that you pick is such an important topic to discuss, the COVID-19 and human development in Indonesia. As you all might know, I think the pandemic may result in a long-term human development crisis, not just in Indonesia, but also worldwide. And then to cope with such a crisis, I think it will require coordinated efforts among many people from different fields of expertise, technical skills, and academic knowledge, like where all of you are all capable of. And then you have shared them today with us with your presentations covering different topics, findings, and recommendations. However, I think, if I may say, I think from the IMSA point of view, I think social virtues are also playing important roles toward human development during these pandemic times. What I mean by social virtue, some examples maybe showing more empathy, solidarity, compassion, following protocols is also one of them, making sacrifices and doing charity, even justice to all. I think IMSA, the organization that I currently help right now, support all aspects of this kind of human developments. And then we hope, this is my sincere hope, that this conference will keep us connected and come up with concrete ideas that we can follow up with more collaborations in the futures. Now, I think I'm closing my remarks by again saying thank you to the organizer for making this conference a success, even it's done virtually. I think overall is doing well. We learned something today, And I hope all the research papers that were presented today will be published soon. I will end my best wishes to everyone who presented and then attended the session, and then hope you will continue sharing your research findings and then making contributions. I think one more thing, if I say that we miss on this conference, the virtual conference, is we don't get to know each other directly, sharing our contacts like we usually do in on-site conference. I think building a network is also an important element, and I hope the organizers, Buaya, you can facilitate for all the scholars to exchange their contacts so they remain connected. And then finally, this is for everyone wishes, I think through patience, strength, and perseverance, we will overcome this pandemic soon, inshallah. And then one last thing I may share, Buaya, like Asirpa, IMSA also has an annual convention where we call it Muktamar, and it will also be virtual this year. It will be held on December 25th and 26th, and then the themes for the convention is with hardship comes ease, virtual and reality. So there will be continuous announcements in the coming weeks, and I invite everyone to join. And again, thank you for your time. Best of luck to all the participants, presenters, scholars. I think I really enjoyed today having with everyone. Buaya.
Thank you, Pak Shafrin. I know it's 12:13, which means this is 2:13 a.m. in Papua. I know how you feel because a few times we in the US have to give a speech or have to give a talk in Indonesia. We end up staying overnight, stay up late. So if you don't mind, can we use another 20 minutes of your time? Because there are a few things that we want to discuss. One is about the future of next year conference. And the second is, the proceeding and the journal that sometime it came up to the conversation. So if that's okay with you, first I want to introduce Pak Nur, as I think all of you get an email from him. So maybe then I should introduce him, Pak Nur Siswar Harjo. He's the main person who's dealing with the journal and proceeding. Pak Nur, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Buaya. Again, thank you for introductions. Maybe some of you, especially the presenters, know me by name because I send correspondent email regarding the abstract submissions. But before I talk about the proceeding, just Buaya mentioned earlier that this conference is free because of the strong support from our partner IMSA. So for anyone, the presenter who already paid, we will refund full refund the payment. So this is good news for everyone. So you get extra extra money. So we will perform the refund process as soon as possible. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, basically related with the proceeding, you can visit the indonesiafocus.net. So as you can see over here, under the proceeding of Indonesia Focus, you will see the link for the conference Indonesia Focus. So as it's being mentioned several times, this is the 12th annual Indonesia Focus conference. So this it is we start in 2008, and you can visit this link and you see the archive for the all conference every year. So if you plan to submit the full paper from the presentation that you presented today, you can just simply go to the click this link, proceeding of Indonesia Focus. Oops, this is unexpected. Okay, Mas Didi, what is going on? Okay, so yeah, so sometimes this is technology. Thanks to technology, so you see in this website, okay, Indonesia proceeding of Indonesia Focus. If you plan to submit the material, the full paper that you presented today, you just go to the make submission link over here, right? Make submission link, and then there will be a guideline that explain what need to be done. So there is a template that you can use. Okay, so for the proceeding of the Indonesia Focus Conference, there are two type of template. If you use the Word 2003 or older, or the Word 2007 or newer. So you please use this template to prepare for your manuscript for preparation, right? So you might need to create the account. Okay, so in that case, just either if you already have the existing account, just be mindful this account is separate with the conference account. So if you never have an account over here, so you need to register by clicking the register link over here, right? So in that case, this totally different account. So if you never done it before, you need to register first in order to do the submissions. So we will do what they call it the full peer review process for this submission. So once the review completed by performing the review and the revision, the paper or the master published in this proceeding. As you see, if you go back to the main page, under the proceeding, there is a Journal of Indonesia Focus. So this is the one that if you have any work and you want to kind of like submit the manuscript without presenting, then you can do it over here, and the process is similar. But if you already have the account in this website, then you just select the Journal of Indonesia Focus and then perform the manuscript submission. So I think that's all on my part. So if there is any questions, any comment or any suggestions, we are more than welcome to. Thank you. Buaya. Okay, Buaya, I think you still mute.
Okay, so I think research is research. Do you all agree? Which means that we welcome any research, whether they're undergrad or they're a professor or their master thesis. So far, we have great, we have great input from Anton and from Surya. Okay, so if Anton, earlier you said you want to help us for maybe next year conference, so if you don't mind working with us for next year, we'll have a special session on sharing the thesis, because again, we just feel like,
I think, Buaya, if I might interject, I think the what they call it, the active participation is open to everyone. So who like to kind of like helping the future conference. So this is not just limited to Pak Anton, but I think
I said about Pak Anton because earlier he said that he volunteered.
Oh, okay.
In a session, he said he volunteered, he want to do that. So, but of course, anyone, because as I said, there are some of you are returner, like Pak Halbana. I mean, I saw you, and also Pak Shamil, even though I didn't see your face, but I'm glad you come. And Ibu Dahlena, I remember seeing you maybe in Columbus. Yeah, okay. And I think I saw Pak Sulaiman as well. I don't remember. I saw you, Pak Sulaiman. Okay, but I saw you. But for those who, who said that, they're interested to come, I want to tell you something. Next year, if the COVID is gone, if everybody has more money, and if, and then if everybody's confident to travel, our conference will take place in the beautiful University of Pittsburgh. So Andy Saptono, that you have met earlier, he will be the main organizer, and so we will see the Pittsburgh, and whoever likes shopping, I'll take you shopping if you want in Pittsburgh. But we're so excited to see each other again. So Andy, would you mind sharing a little bit, maybe for 5 minutes, about, a little bit about campus and about the conference?
Thank you so much, Maya, for that gracious remark. I would like to congratulate the Indonesian Focus Conference team first. This is a really, really great conference. Even though it's the first time the team is conducting this virtually, I feel that the experience has been very smooth, and all the discussions has been very productive. It really, really shows the dedication and effort of the organizer, of all the team members in selecting contents as well as preparing the platform. So I just want to give a big round of applause to the team for that one. And as Maya mentioned, even though we still don't know what the future will hold for us, we still want to hope that we can welcome everyone to Pittsburgh next year. And just a little bit of backstory: our city is a story of the United States grit in the face of adversity. We were at one point facing bankruptcy as a city. So we were the steel capital of the world and then facing bankruptcy, but we're able to turn over the new page and reinvent into a city of health, education, and technology. And this intersection of multidisciplinary really opens up opportunities of inventions and a lot of emerging technologies, which attracts not only startup companies, but also big companies. So Google have an office here, and Zoom just recently opened an office here at Pittsburgh as well. And they're very interested in collaborating with the university as well as the healthcare. Probably they want to open a branch specific for Zoom Health, maybe. I'm not sure exactly what they're planning, but we're very excited about that. And just a little bit more, Baya mentioned about food. We have great food here at Pittsburgh, and we'll definitely have some great food for you as well when you travel here. But if you don't, well, right now, since we're not at Pittsburgh, if you still want to taste a little bit of Pittsburgh, it's very easy actually. You just need to go to a McDonald's and grab a Big Mac, because Big Mac actually originates from Pittsburgh. In 1967, it was invented here at Pittsburgh. So if you want to try some Pittsburgh cuisine, it's very easy. Just grab some Big Mac and you're in Pittsburgh. And we certainly look forward to meeting everyone in Pittsburgh at the 2021 Indonesia Focus. So thank you very much. And back to you, Baya.
Thank you so much, Andy. So I'm very proud of this conference, even though we're small. We're not like 1,000 people, but one thing that I heard repeatedly, a lot of people who came here like the intimate feeling in terms of, they don't hesitate to share, they don't hesitate to discuss. And Pak Shafrin missed this, but every year, we always have a special session on religion in Islam. But this year we missed that, okay? But it's also to show like there is always be something new. Like for example, Mbak Dorsita talk about Garuda training. We have never had that, presentation. A lot of time when we talk about training and education is from the perspective of schools. And then just like Ibu Pek as well said that saya rindu Indonesia, listening to some music in room 1 bring me to something related to Indonesia, because we always have some dances and maybe during the conference as well. So a few things, just 3 things before we end the session. So generally, we publish the proceeding in November. So if some of you who only send us the one paragraph abstract, please send us the extended abstract by next week, okay? And that's one. And if you are reluctant to be published in proceeding, but want to publish in a journal, send it the full paper in a journal, because we received a few questions earlier about the journal and proceeding. Okay, so that's proceeding and the and then the journal. Third announcement is related to call for paper. generally call for paper release around November and December, okay, around that time. So if, for example, you have ideas based on attending this conference that you want to start, well, go for it. And then if you didn't get our email, then contact us. Because I noticed that there are at least 3 people in this group never receive our email. So we apologize for that. We didn't mean to ignore, but like one of them, I think Ibu Dorsita, I think we have sent you like 4 emails, but apparently you didn't receive that email. So contact us either through the WhatsApp Messenger or to our email. And then finally, we ask your as promised, we will give you the certificate. But prior to that, I would like to ask your help. We will send you a short survey. Maybe it will take about 3 minutes of your time. And once you completed the survey, we will send you the certificate, which you can print it yourself. Okay, all right. So that's all for me. Is there any question or or anything you want to say before we close? Because I tried to keep my promise to finish it by 12:30. No question? Okay. Thank you so much for your attention, and I do hope to see you again. And I do hope
take a picture.
Oh, sure.
Take a picture.
So for those who don't have the camera, do you want them to show their face?
No, I think one of the hosts should take picture.
And now I see my friend Siska is there.
Oh,
Okay,
nice.
so everybody activate the video.
Yeah, if you don't mind, activate the video so we can all see each other's face in case next year we will see each other in Pittsburgh.
I can learn to understand you much better if I can get familiar with the way you talk. I need your permission.
Let us know when you're ready, when you want us to take.
I already did.
Oh, you did? So we're done.
Take one more time.
1, 2, 3, cheese.
Ah, that's good.
Padahal saya nggak ngambil ini mau ngomong cheese doang.
No, I feel it.
Okay. If there is no question or if there's no remarks, so thank you, and let's keep in touch. Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Looking forward to seeing you in Pittsburgh.
Bye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good
Bye-bye.
night. Good morning.
Good morning. Good night.